So,
Debutant, you talk us through Will Kelly.
are you going off the media story?
Yes, I would confirm that.
Yeah, I can confirm that, Mitch. Will's done really well. Obviously, 18 months in, and has had his issues, injury issues over the last 2 or 3 years. Late as a junior, and then with us last year. But his pre-season was super. Moving him forward, late last year we think has been a good move, and his form's been that consistent that he's warranted his opportunity on Friday night. A player who, although he's got good size, moves around really well, very agile, work rate through the roof. A young fella that's earned his opportunity. The players are pumped to see him get his chance.
Does he take the spot of Mason Cox then, given that the likeness in the tall forward, and given you've got Brodie already in that role as another key forward?
No, our side will go in on Thursday night, and we'll declare our final 22 at that point.
Nathan, feels like from the outside it might have been a challenging week for the club. Is that how it's been for you guys, or is it just another day at Collingwood?
I'll let that one go through to the keeper, Drew. Thanks for that. No, we actually we've been quite remote. Obviously flying up on Sunday, and the early impressions for me is hub life is really positive, and I think most of the obviously there's challenges around leaving family, and especially those with young children are facing some challenges in regards to the fact that the metropolitan area is going to be locked down. But the reality here for the players is that they are spending more time together in this hub environment than they were beforehand. It's whilst there are issues that are going on back home for some, for most, we have probably been in a bubble in many ways. So we've been able to come back to each other, focus on obviously some on-field challenges that have presented themselves. We've lost the last 2 games. Obviously the GWS game we lost by 2 points, should have won it. The Essendon game, we lost by 2.5 goals and lowered our colours for the majority of the match. So our form is not tragic, but we do have some work to do on field, and we've been able to focus on that.
Sorry, Glenn. Clint Stanaway in Melbourne. Just to piggyback off the back of that question. It's been a bit of commentary in Melbourne, as you might be aware, about optics of the hub setup,
Yep.
Players slammed for elitism and the like. Does that disappoint you, mate?
Go again, Clint. What in terms of optics?
There's been commentary in Melbourne from several people around the optics of the hub setup, and players slammed for elitism and winging it to hub life. Does that?
The Susie O'Brien article, is that the main one?
Yeah, that and also Neil Mitchell, I think, had a bit of a go as well.
Oh, look, everyone's going to have an opinion on what advantages or disadvantages an AFL player, an AFL staff member, or AFL full stop are getting or are having to work through. And I think it really does depend on your perspective and what angle you're coming from, as happens with a lot of things that happen in life. And I can understand the perspective where some people in society are wondering why, are looking and say, well, I can't work as I normally would, and I can't ply my trade. Why is an AFL competition going ahead? And then on the other perspective, you say, someone in an AFL environment who's saying, well, this, have a look at the challenges that we're facing, the things that are abnormal to us to be able to maintain the competition's momentum in many ways, and one of those has been moving away from home. So I think I understand all perspectives. I don't agree with all perspectives. I mean, as I said, leaving family, to go to war is something that someone who enlists in the army or the navy, the infantry in some sort, are going to face. They know they're going to cope with that. No one who plays AFL thinks that they're ever going to have to be away from their family for chunks of time. Let me preface that one's life and death and one's just a sport. But I can understand the opinions, but we're just going about our business. We're doing what the competition is asking of us. We're doing what we can and trying to make the best of it as best we can, and trying to enjoy the experience in amongst the challenge, which is pretty much what you want to do at any stage of your life.
Bucks, Nathan, as the AFL Bucks tentatively set it out in the club about potentially playing more games as part of this period, and would you be pushing perhaps for, if that happened, for more people on the bench, more players on the bench, if indeed that's the path that the AFL went down?
No, we're not aware of what our, what 6, 7, 8, what it looks like beyond round 9 at this point, and the rest is up. The rest would just be up for debate, mate. But right now, really focused on the Hawks on Friday night. And if you're asking me to speculate on something in a month's time, we've already seen how quickly things can and will change in this environment. So we've got our eyes quite low, looking at the next couple of days and the game against Hawthorn.
Bucks, Rob Waters here. How you going?
Yeah, mate.
I know you can't talk about Jordan's situation because it's a police matter, but what do you say to Collingwood supporters after the 3 separate events of the last week, and how the club's going to respond to it?
Yeah, I think we've been pretty open with that. Obviously Geordie's matters from 2015 is in the hands of police now. Steele's has been well documented, and I'm yet to see Steele face to face. So he's over in Perth, and when he reassimilates to the program, we'll get the chance to have some conversations with Steele to close that loop. And I suppose the club has appointed an independent arbitrator or investigator for the claims around Heritia's experience, which we hope to learn and grow from and look forward to be better in that space. So it may seem from the outside that there's a lot going on, and I would say that we are addressing all of these issues. We constantly are addressing how we can be better and how we can provide a better environment, one, for our people internally, how we can represent our members and our supporters as best we possibly can, both on and off the field. And at various times in a cycle, you're going to be more exposed than other times, and there's going to be more commentary around you. And all we can do is make the next best decision as we go on. So the group that we've got around us here, trying to make the next best decision, trying to support each other as best we can, and see if we can increase our performance on field in the short term and be a better club for ourselves and for our supporters as we go on. If you're not asking questions, guys, can you work yourself on? Thanks, Tom. If you're not answering a question, or once someone's asked a question, can you go on mute? Cheers. Tom?
Bucks, that's not my ask. I was just asking you, sorry, just to clarify, I couldn't hear you, so I apologise if I jumped in. Is the Sidebottom matter closed from an internal club perspective, Bucks?
Well, I haven't spoken to him face to face yet, so and neither has Jeff Walsh. So we don't anticipate that there's going to be significant impacts beyond his 4-week ban through the AFL, and that is something that would be taken into consideration, given that that's a fair penalty for not just for Steele but for the rest of the football club not having him on the field for 4 weeks. We will address Steele and what his learnings from this and our learnings from it. When we get the opportunity to speak to him, and that'll be done internally.
Nathan, what is their mindset at the moment? Both of those players for a lot of that.
Sorry, Glennie, do you want to go again? That was a bit broken up, mate.
Sorry, mate. I was just saying their mindset. They're a long way from the group at the moment. What's your understanding of Steele's mindset at the moment, and also Jordan, for what they've gone through in the last 7 days, and how they're approaching, returning to footy at some stage?
I wouldn't have a great handle on it. I've had a few conversations with both of them. What I would say is they live a very public existence, and there's a fair bit of scrutiny that comes with being less than perfect is what I was going to say. But I mean, in the end, if you have done wrong and it's splashed over the papers, or you're in a public existence, it's going to be a little bit difficult to handle that as much as your own conscience, I suppose, to deal with your role in the situation that you're in. I hope that both of the boys are thinking about how they can contribute to the football club and become better people from their experiences, whether it's public or whether it's private. And we drive that as much as we possibly can. What I would say is that they've each of them, as I said, they're not public people. They're not perfect people, and they've been hauled publicly over the coals at the moment. And we will continue to support them as much as we can, whilst holding them to account with, especially internally, with what we're aware of.
Nathan, have some of Eddie Maguire's recent comments made the situation worse, and would you like him to refrain at times?
I can understand on the focus on that, Daniel, and there's been a fair bit of commentary about it. What I would say is that Ed, as the president, is entitled to make whatever comments he wishes about the football club at any time. He does find himself in front of a microphone or a camera quite often, given his role. But I suppose the next part in that is that the actual football program itself, once the board puts people in positions, we operate quite separate to the board. And we've got great leadership in the football program that is responsible and accountable for on-field performance and any cultural, along with the CEO, with any cultural and behavioural issues, and we deal with them as appropriately as we possibly can. So there's leadership in the football program that is accountable to to what you see on field, to behaviour and any disciplinary issues that needs to take place. Comes back down to us, so we'll deal with it appropriately.
And just in terms of the game Friday night, Hawthorn have a pretty strong recent record against you, and particularly James Sicily has been a key player in a few of those performances. How do you look to nullify him, and what are the tactical challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, look, Hawthorn defend really well. They like to if they get the ball in their front half, they're very good at keeping it there. Their front half turnovers and their capacity to keep the ball in their front half is as strong as any. So we understand how good their defensive mix is. Their back six is benefited by a really strong and solid defensive structure all over the ground. And Sicily is one of those players. They've been a very strong side in that phase of the game for a very long time. You talk about our win-loss against them, it hasn't been great. I don't think the win-loss against Hawthorn through the last 10 years, anyone really has not often been on the positive side of that ledger. They've been a great side for a long time. So we have some challenges, and we're looking forward to that on Friday night.
Bucks, on against the last weekend, you went at a high. handball to kick ratio. Are you guys looking to adjust that this week? And how difficult is it to adjust when you're not even training on the ground with which you'll play on? It's a difficult circumstances.
You know, we don't sort of plan to go out there and be a one-to-one side, and when you're a little bit cleaner at ground level, you can get out of congestion. I thought Essendon's pressure was pretty good, and that can force you into handballing a little too often. And I thought that's a fair criticism of us on the weekend. So yes, we want to continue to work on our being dynamic in offence and expressing ourselves in offence, and being a little bit cleaner inside, which gives you a bit more time and space to use the ball going forward.
Bucks, Tom Langdon's recovery's a feel-good story, given some thought that might be all over for him.
Yeah, well, when you don't see him out in the track, it's not all bad. When you do see him out in the track, it's not all good. But he's definitely tracking in the right direction. The trend has been gradually up. We've been encouraged by Langer's progress over the last sort of 6 weeks. We know how good he has been for us on field over the last couple of years, so he's definitely a player that we'd like to have available, and he's still working towards that end, and so are we. It was good to see him up and about today.
Bucks, you obviously played at the Giants Stadium a couple of weeks ago. It was a very shifting surface. Do you have any concerns with the ground this week?
I didn't notice that. I mean, did that come up in the commentary in our Giants game, did we? Or...
Yeah, it certainly did. I wasn't there, but it certainly did look that way, and it did come up on the commentary.
Right. I think that was when someone fell on their knee and left a big divot. No, we actually felt it was a good surface. Probably, we played a game there after playing a couple at the G and felt like, for whatever reason, there was less moisture on the ground. So it was the ball was a little bit tackier. So the feel for the footy and the capacity to be cleaner with it should be there on this particular ground. So. I don't have any issues with the surface as such, or the conditions that we'll be playing in. Not something we can control, so we'll do our best.
Can you just clarify the quarantine rules around Sidebottom and DeGoey and the crew that arrived in Perth yesterday? Does that start as of Tuesday and run normally, or will that reset when the rest of the group get there, say Saturday after the Friday night game?
Not part of my brief, Mitch. So I reckon Walsh will be all over that. What I do know is that the group that have gone over there got there last night, and they've begun a quarantine of sorts, but they will just fall into line with us when we get over there on Saturday, which will begin our 14-day period, and they wouldn't have any reason to be separated from us in that time. So they've just got a little bit longer at the Joondalup facility.
Nathan, people from the Australian. Can I just check one thing? Do you still have to abide by the AFL COVID regulations up here, or is it as you like because you're in New South Wales?
No, we have. There's two sets of information, or there's two levels. One is the state requirements. But whether we're in Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, WA, the AFL's requirements have been over and above whatever the state requirements have been. So we are not all of a sudden New South Wales, part of the New South Wales population. We are effectively in quarantine in our hotel. We can leave the hotel in pairs for up to 45 minutes to go for a walk, grab a takeaway coffee, and then we're back here. We can go to the beach for a recovery session in small groups, but once again, social distancing applies, and we're there for a recovery session as such, and then back to the hotel. So that's pretty much what we're exposed to, and once again, it is pretty much a day-to-day thing. We take advice from Shannon Collins, who is our COVID compliance officer at the club, Jeff Walsh, Those two boys are all over it and are taking the lead and informing players and coaches and staff about what we need to attend to.
And I know, Nathan, you didn't, you couldn't commit to the team given that it'll be announced tomorrow night, but are you able to just confirm the Tyler Brown spot? And I only ask given that it could be 5 father-sons if Will and the rest of the crew from last week played.
You might have to hold that for Thursday night as a story then, Mitch, if it comes through, but you'll get the information when we can give it, mate. Thanks for the question, though.
But I'm mindful it's hard singling out players because he might have had some company against the Bombers, but there's been some commentary around Mason Cox's performance last Friday night. What's been your message to Coxie this week in terms of your key messaging?
Got to do better. There's a few boys in that boat, as you said. So we probably we estimated that we had over a dozen players that didn't execute their role at minimum. So when you're not feeling like when your players aren't actually playing the role that's asked for them and aren't being able to contribute and impact the game the way that you'd like to, it does affect your team performance. Of course, there's the flip side of that as well. When other players aren't playing as well, it makes it hard for you to be able to contribute as much as you like, which is where that team dynamic comes in. We weren't enamoured with our performance. We thought the Bombers were pretty good, so we've got to give them credit. But we've got some work to do off the back of last week's performance, and there's a few individuals that feel like they want to get back to our DNA and want to get back to their brand and being able to contribute a bit better.
You think you're far off it, Nate? Because a couple of weeks ago against St Kilda, that was a very complete performance.
Yes and no. The first half was really good. The second half was a bit bland. We played really well in the second half of the Giants. As I said, we kicked straight, dominated the second half of that game, and wasn't able to finish it off. So we've lost 2 games of footy in a row. But if you break it down, I think the criticism that we're facing on field for our on-field performances, blends into a little bit of the off-field issues. But we're able to separate that, and we understand that our performance last week wasn't what we wanted. I think that's been pretty consistent across the competition. With a little bit of ups and downs, with potentially with emotional and mental focus, capacity at different times. Our boys reflected on the fact that I suppose the lack of real clarity around what their futures were affected them for the first time this year. So we've addressed that a little bit better. As I said, we've been able to narrow our focus, but I think most clubs are going to experience what we experience, which is a little bit of a pop when you spend more time together. So I'd expect that the football this week would be, we'll pop a little bit, given that the players have spent more time together. That connection piece will be good, but it's good for us, but it'll be good for everyone else as well. But no, we're not going as bad as what you guys are telling us we are. But in the end, we've got to perform on Friday night. That's all that matters.
Just to clarify that point, Bucks, in terms of the futures, you're referring to the uncertainty that existed around last Thursday and Friday, which we've got better clarity on this week. You made an adjustment? Yeah,
well, there's just information coming to hand consistently. And right now, even leading into the game last week, there was new information coming to light, and even after that, we were leaving Monday and then we were leaving Sunday. But that's the same for everyone. We pride ourselves on being able to handle stormy waters or challenging situations and being able to strip it back and focus on the things that we know that we can influence. And as I said, addressing things with a really open perspective and how can we improve? What have we learned from this? How can we go forward? How can we be better? There's going to be criticism consistently, from different perspectives, but all that matters is our view of ourselves, our capacity to influence the things that we can control. So this information was a little bit dodgy at times and changes consistently, but for what we've got, we look like we've got in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. It sounds like it's a little bit more predictable for the competition. So I think that'll be, as I said, I think you'll see the standard of the games pop simply off that, because players aren't robots. they've got other things going on in their lives as well, and part of the challenge is to get that all sorted so you can go out and express yourself fully when you hit the field.